So I also feel there might be some value in just backing up, because you two have such experience and deep rapport on this subject. But I have kind of an intuitive feeling that the people who are going to watch this podcast might not know anything about parental alienation. And I thought maybe a really clean definition of that might be valuable. And even about your film. And then I was also wondering if Andrew's experience as an alienated child is unique, because you've talked to hundreds, thousands, of kids, maybe, Ginger?
Sure, yeah. So when we use the term parental alienation, I think the first thing to say is that this is a pop culture term. It's not necessarily a scientific term, and we can refer to it by a lot of different ways. Sometimes it's called parental gatekeeping, family bond obstruction, attachment disorder. But basically what it is a set of behaviors that one parent does to damage the relationship or exclude the other parent, and sometimes their extended family, out of the child's life. And it's important to note that also grandparents can do this, step-parents can do this. In a racing family, we have a situation where it's the step-parent who's really driving the alienation, who's very active. And also that there are situations, and a lot of them, where both parents are acting badly, and this, I think, is more complicated. We'd like to think of it, there's who's the bad parent, and often it's two parents who are responding from their hurt little child selves. And one way to look at it is that when a parent wants to harm the relationship between a child and the other parent, they're using the child because it's the most precious thing that parent has. So it's a form of domestic violence by proxy, because the child becomes damaged as collateral, but really they want to hurt the other parent by removing that relationship, that love, that sense of being. For a lot of parents, becoming a mom or a dad was the most important thing of their life. For some people, that's how they define themselves. So that's taking away someone's definition, and also, it will make the other person act irrationally. But I think what's also important to note is that there's varying degrees of this, and the most common form and the most subtle form, but very effective, is telling your child, it's okay if you don't want to see mom. You don't like going over there, right? Or you don't want to see, when you see dad, mommy gets really sad because she's all alone, and it makes mommy cry. Do you want to stay with mommy? So stuff like that, which isn't creating, because I think a lot of people think this is all about false accusations and court cases. But in a racing family, we have one kid who just says, it was so stressful to see my mom. I just decided it was easier not to have her in my life. And I made a decision to no longer communicate with my mom. And he eventually became adopted by his stepmom. He chose this because it's just simply less stressful. So little things that parents do can really influence their kid. And the kid then thinks to themselves, so if they're older and very smart, this might be a rational protective decision, or it might be a decision that they make from their subconscious, which is, okay, if I want the love of the parent who I live with, I need to get with their program. And that program means rejecting the other parent. And some parents, and this is, I think, also the most surprising thing that I found, is that it's actually easier to alienate a teenage kid than a young kid. And that's because young children are very bad at lying. So they will break down very easily. And sometimes then we have a clip of this in the film, of a little girl who says, the mom is coaching her, you don't want to see daddy. And she goes, no, I don't want to see daddy. Why don't you? And she just begins to cry, because I don't. And she doesn't have a good reason. And she's heartbroken. But teenagers, they can be bribed. You stay with me, you get a car. You stay with me, you can go out as much as you want. There's no curfew at my house. The other house is stricter. Or they just know that this is the game they have to play. So then it's easier for them to give testimony or tell other people, I really don't want to see that parent, because they realize they have to play this game. Because what alienation does is it says, my love is not unconditional. My love is conditional, and my love is conditional on you being loyal to me and not to the other parent. So it creates a huge loyalty conflict for the child. It forces them to choose. And it also teaches them in the future that if somebody is difficult, you can just erase them. And in the most tragic cases, and we see this in the film Erasing Family, is you have kids who will say, my birth mom, my egg donor, my sperm donor. But these were parents who they lived with for many years, who were part of a family. It wasn't, you know, their mom wasn't an egg donor, the mother raised them for 16 years. But they say, that's not my mom. We have a letter in the film where a girl says to her dad, it's just blood and DNA. You're not my dad. My stepfather raised me, he's my dad. You're not. We have nothing. We are strangers, she says. We are strangers. Now, what's also interesting that we see in the film in a lot of cases is that dad, like a lot of people, doesn't always respond in the best way. And this was actually a response to a Facebook post where a lot of parents would think it's not that bad what he posted and very general about laws and the mom, but she saw it as an attack on her mom. And now she's like, I have the justification to never talk to you ever again because you're attacking my mom. And the problem that we get with the family courts is that these cases get rated high conflict. The courts don't want to deal with them. A lot of professionals don't know what to do. They don't want to put a lot of consequences on the parents for these behaviors. So these cases, they get worse because most divorces, there's a lot of conflict because you're getting divorced for a reason. And then over the years, the conflict subsides. And in these cases, we see the conflict and the animosity increasing over time. Stuff gets more violent. And recently, I'm not sure when this podcast will air, but we had another tragic example of a father who was unable to see his kids for 3 years. He was very active in the parental alienation community. He went on some podcasts. He was writing letters to his kids. And finally, he gets to see his 2 daughters. Goes to the parking lot where the custody exchange is going to happen. Stepfather gets out of the car, shoots him dead, and confesses to the police right away. Oh, I shot him. Because for people who are in this sick alienation mindset, and this is different from another more subtle form of alienation, which is I want more custody time, so I win, so I punish you, and I get more money from child support. Because that's a logical person, a mean person, but logical. But when someone is sick and I have to erase you at all costs, this can lead to murder and suicide. There's been cases where people say, if you can't have my kid, if I can't have my child, I'm going to kill the child, I'm going to kill me. So these are the most tragic cases. And right now, the legal community and the psychological community, a lot of times they don't want to treat these cases because they're so volatile, because people who are actively alienating and who have psychological problems behind this, they will report the psychologist, they will harass them, they will, so a lot of people are just like, it's not worth it to do this, which is why awareness and prevention is so important, because if we can prevent these cases from escalating, we can save a lot of heartache, because when they get really bad, there are ways to stop it and to cure it, but it is very, very difficult. It is very difficult. It's very time consuming, very expensive. So the emphasis has to be on prevention.